What is up, people? I am Matt Lighty, of course, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about maps and how to roll them. Now, maps serve as the end-game content for Path of Exile. Pretty much you start rolling into them around level 70-ish, until maps you're going through story mode, and then you can stay at Dried Lake even if you want until 74 and Merciless, but personally I get a little bored with that after a while, so that's when I start rolling into maps. Now, maps drop from other maps past T1. So T1 maps can drop just in the world, like in Dried Lake. That's probably one of the first places you'll get them. And then maps past that can only drop from maps. Now, if I have a T1 map, I can get either T1s, T2s, or T3s. Now, magic mobs and rare mobs can drop one map a one item level higher, and only the boss in the area can drop a map that is two item levels higher, often known as a +2 map. Now, it doesn't happen that often, and maps drop more frequently at lower levels in those respective tiers. But a couple things affect map drops. Really only one thing, and that's quantity. But you can get quantity a couple ways, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's go through my basic strategy of what rolling maps is. So T1 through 3 maps, such as T1 through 3, I leave them white, or if you found them rare, or if you found them magic, you can keep them like that. I don't craft on them, I don't have any fuss with them, I leave them as is. T3 through 5, I augment normally. Depends if the T3 is good or not. What I mean by good is some T3s are nicer. For example, Mud Geyser is an easy T3 to clear because the layout. Some T3s like Museum have super rippy bosses, super scary bosses, of which there are a few. I tend to skip those, but if you want, you could transmute and augment these also. So for something like this, I would transmute. Good, perfectly fine as is. If I hit a mod that I cannot do, for example, if I'm a physical build and I hit physical reflect and I cannot do it, I will alteration it until I can have a mod that I can do. You only want to really roll over mods you absolutely cannot do, because wasting currency while mapping is one of the things that holds you back from mapping later on the most. So same thing, I'll do that for T4s and even T5s. Now some people, and I'm against this normally, will alchemy their T5 maps, bam, like so. Now you can do that, but often around the level that you're running T5 maps, you might not have the luxury to chaos them, to reroll them. This map is fine. It's a little bit rippy. Maybe in a new league you might want to forego a map like this, but it doesn't have anything that prevents any build from completing it, such as reflect, such as negative res for an RF build, for example. So that's fine. That's good. Good to go. A little rippy, but good to go. Now, T6 maps up. Everything T6 up, you're going to be alching. If it's not rare, you're going to scour it and make it rare. That's pretty much how that goes. I don't chisel T6 maps. And you may be asking, what the fuck's a chisel? Well, this is a cartographer's chisel. Now, what a chisel does is it adds quantity to a map in the form of quality. Quality and quantity are a 1-to-1 ratio on maps, so even though it's a different word, that's all it is. If you put this onto a map like so, that just added 5 quality, which adds 5 quantity. It says it respectively as it is right there. Now, chisels you get from dropping them. You could buy them from the Forsaken Master. I don't suggest that. Easiest way to get chisels, if you have stuff like gavels, you can trade in a 20 quality gavel plus a map, and you will get a chisel in return. Especially for gavels, since it has a desirable unique on the base Mjolnir, what you do is you make it 20 quality, chance orbit. It didn't become Mjolnir because it's statistically unlikely. Vend it with Cemetery, boom bow, you have 1 chisel. This is going to become a very useful recipe later on. So we now know what chisels are. We know how to roll maps T1 through 6. What's happening past that? Well, now it's starting to get into a little expensive zone currency-wise. So we have T7 maps, which you want to have all 20 quality. Now, we discussed quality a little bit earlier, and quality functions the same way for all items in the game. The item is white, 1 item of that respective quality, whether it's blacksmith whetstone or a cartographer chisel or is a glassblower's bauble, will add 5 quality. If it's magic, it adds 2 quality. If it's rare, it adds 1 quality. So we do not chisel maps unless they are white. If they're not white, it is actually cheaper to scour them and then alch them than it is to blow extra chisel of them. The average price of chisels 3-to-1 chaos, league dependent, hardcore it's roughly that. So it's cheaper to scour to white, chill to the 20 quality, move on from there. And you're going to do that from every map T7 plus. So I normally don't spend chaos on T7 and T8 maps because they're pretty frequent to get. As you can see, I have a shit ton of them here. That's from about a week of mapping and running maps. It's not hard to accumulate T7 and T8 drops. Starting off, yes, but you'll build a pool as time goes on. Now, T9 maps is when I start chaosing for pack size. Now, we have a few T9 maps here. What you basically want to do is you want to chaos them for pack size. Such mods that add pack size are Elemental Equilibrium and Feeble. These are easy mods that don't really prevent builds from running them. More tricky ones, for example, would be Negative Res, Temporal Chains. These things add pack size. They don't really stop most builds. It just kind of slows you down or halts your progress in the map, but pack size equals larger packs, which increases your chance of map drops and overall increases your experience. So pack size is what you want to go for. Basically T9 maps plus. You want to start rolling for pack size. Even one pack size roll is fine. Now, T9 maps we do something special with, and mostly because lots of the T9 map bosses are either difficult or the maps have really shitty layouts. Basically, aside from Arid Lake and Gorge are the two nice T9 maps. Aside from that, what we like to do is we like to make them as if they're our torture chamber here. We make them 20 quality, we alch them, chaos them for pack size, then we val them. 9 times out of 10 they're just gonna say corrupted, or they're gonna get more mods, become more difficult. Often they can get random set of affixes. That's fine. Sometimes they go like this. It says unidentified corrupted. Now, I don't know what that map had prior to me valing it, because either I was paying attention or the mods have changed. You don't know until you enter the map. Now you'd be saying, well, I mean, I'm in hardcore. You're in softcore, the risk is a bit lower, but that has random map mods that I don't know about. The only way to know about them is when you enter the map. Now, when I mean you enter the map, if you enter a corrupted map, the thing you gain the most is you gain 30% quantity for doing a corrupted map, or unidentified map in general. So if you find a map unID'd, you could run it unID'd, and you gain 30% quantity, which is nice. That increases your map drops. Not pack size, it's quantity, but it's still nice nonetheless. Now, this can cause problems that I've just entered this map on hardcore, keep it, and now we see one thing. We see, okay, we have temp chains. So we have to figure out now, based off of pushing tab, you can see what the map mods are. I can see what we have here. We have 97% more items, 30 of which is from me doing an ID. Okay, we have rarity, we have pack size. That 14% pack size is because of temp chains. So it becomes like a fun game when doing unidentified maps to figure out what the map rolls are. Now, a couple things we can do. We can see, okay, are we regenning mana slower? Nope, we're not blood magic. There's no chilled ground, there's no desecrated ground, there's no burning ground. You can kind of work your way through the list of things we can see. We do not have negative res, so you can kind of figure out what mods you may or may not have. Now, I'm a build that is not affected by Reflect, but if you're a Reflect build, you may not know it until you hit a first pact, which could be your last pact. So that is a cool way of getting more quantity running unID'd maps, often a byproduct of valing maps. In this situation, looks like to be something not that rippy. I don't know if it's Reflect until I test it out. Let's just find a pack real quick, and we'll see if this would have been death. Nope, no Reflect. I would know because my totem would take damage. But in general, that's a cool way of getting more quantity, which could equal more maps down the road. Now, maps drop less later on. That's just a fact of life. The odds of you getting the higher tier maps from map train or in higher maps are just less frequent. You're going to get lower level maps a lot more often, which can really prevent your progression. So you like to build a bigger pool up. Now, an important thing in mapping is knowing your level and what maps you can run. Now, if I'm level 90, I can run T7, T8, T9 maps comfortably with still gaining 2, 3, 4% experience a map. That may sound like not a lot, but when you get higher up, you will wish for the days that you were getting 3% a map. So it's good to run maps a little lower than what you're getting percentage-wise, what you'd like. So if say, oh, I'd love to get 5% a map, well, then you might want to do a map tier lower so you can save those high level maps, like save the T10s, 11s, 12s, 13s, for when you're higher level and you gain more value out of them. Similar to how you could even stay at Dried Lake until you are 74 and just forego mapping T1 through 3 or save your higher tier maps for later on. So let's move on to T10 maps, T11 maps, and getting up into the upper echelons of mapping. Now, T10 and T11, you still do the same old adages, chisel to 20, alk, cast for pack size, that's fine. But you now have a couple options of things you can do on top of that. You can add sacrifice fragments to maps to add quantity. Now, each sacrifice fragment you put on a map, so if I say take one sacrifice fragment, I go in this map device, I put in sacrifice fragment, I put in mud geyser, it is going to add 10 quantity per fragment. I can do this one for each different type of fragment. Now, you don't want to use midnights because they're worth a lot. Roughly fragments like dusk, dawn, and noon worth maybe 1 chaos for 2 or 1 chaos each. That adds a lot of quantity and really should only be saved for higher level maps where returns are rare, and maps such as T13s could go for 30 chaos, which really makes the chance of getting one to drop extremely well for the payoff of using just a couple chaos and sacrifices per map roll. So that's a good strategy I like to use for T12 plus maps. You can use it for T11s if you'd like, although I find T11s aren't as hard to get as the red tier, the T12 plus maps. Now we get T11 maps. I like to do the similar thing to the past ones, and often these bosses are normally quite easy. Academy, Springs, Crematorium is a bit scary. Precinct is quite easy. The T12 maps, however, are a kind of hard boss pool to fight through. Now, Village Ruin is known to be one of the scariest bosses. Overgrown Ruin is a very scary boss as well. These are often valid because of that. T13 has a nice tier in which you could do a lot of bosses that are quite easy, but really T12 plus, you'd like to val all of your maps and the chance of getting upgrades, because, for example, if a Overgrown Ruin or a T12 map in general costing you 15 chaos, by that logic, a T13 is 45 chaos, as it takes 3 maps to upgrade them. Maybe a little less expensive because from your T12 you can get multiple T13s. But let's just say it's worth 3 times the value. If I val this and went T13, that have just increased the value of this item threefold essentially, because it is now worth a T13 map, because val orbs can increase the map level by 1, or, make them un-ID'd. Or like we saw over here, un-ID'd corrupted, which again adds 30 quantity, but makes it especially rippy in the higher level maps. Now, the final thing you can do for map crafting, in which you should be doing every previous step up to now, pretty much. So, for T12s, T13s, you want to scour quality up to 20, alk, cast for pack size, val, add fragments if you want to. You don't have to add fragments. I like to add fragments for all of these maps. What do you do? What's the last thing you can do to get the most value out of your map? And that comes in over here in the Zana device. Now, Zana, as you know, is the mapping Forsaken Master. You can acquire her in one of 2 ways, effectively. You can either find her in a map. She only spawns in a map. She doesn't spawn in the rest of the game. Or you could either have her daily given to you by a friend, a guild mate, or you could find her maybe in Global 820. So, for those who are looking for Zana, you just type /global 820, which is the Forsaken Master sharing channel. And when you're there, you may see occasional posts where people say free Zana or whatever master you're looking for. If Zana is the one for mapping, they'll say free Zana in a level 70 map or free Zana daily. Don't be mistaken when they say Zana chain. Zana chain means that each player shares their master daily, similar to a mapping chain, which we'll get to in a second. That's not free. You have to look for what actually it's going to say free if you're new to the game and don't know about Forsaken Master sharing in general. So the last thing you can do with Zana is you can add Domination. Now what Domination does is it adds 5 shrines to the map. Shrines were added to the Domination League. Shrines have such effect. You've seen them while leveling. Brutal Shrine, Ice Number Shrine, Divine Shrine, Onslaught Shrine, whatever the shrine may be. The main thing about shrines is they spawn, I believe it's 3 packs, maybe not always 3 packs, but roughly 3 packs around them. So that's 3 packs times 5, roughly 15 packs of additional mobs on a map. That's a lot of experience. Also, it's a lot of potential map drops. Some of those packs may be magic mobs, some of them might not be. Just a quick notable mention, previously Ambush used to be the go-to way to sustain maps, as it added 4 strong boxes. Now the strong boxes, it didn't really matter what boxes there were. Yes, it could be cartographers, although you're more likely to find a unique strong box in a high level map than you are cartographers. What you used to do is you used to roll on the strong box. This box contains 3 magic mobs, which was the highest rate of return of experience and map drops, and has now been nerfed to 1 pack of magic mobs, not 3. So we now forego Ambush and go for the cheaper option, Domination. You may be thinking, wow man, 10 chaos per map? Yeah, I mean, you're getting map drops, maybe. Maybe it makes the map easier, maybe it makes maps harder because there's shrines on it. But 10 chaos, that's a bit too rich for my blood, too steep for my wallet, you may say. Yes, it is a little pricey for 1 player, but consider that price split 6 ways, split 5 ways, 2 chaos a person. That price now becomes a lot easier to afford. Now, that brings us to the final point of the map discussion, mapping with the party and map rotations. So, I personally like to play solo majority of the game. I'm level 94 now, and I've played solo most of it. A slight issue is happens when you're playing solo. You don't get map drops. You don't get the value of your map drops. And once you get about T10 plus, it becomes extremely hard to get those maps. You can see the large disparity in my tiers. Tier 8s and Tier 7s, tons of them. Tier 10 plus, not so much. That is because I'm only getting 1 map per 1 player. It means I am doing 1 map by myself. All the drops are being given to me, but I'm only doing 1 map. If I was hypothetically in a party of 6 players, we can share that map between 6 players, which means that I run my 1 map, everyone comes to my hideout, we run my map, the map is over, I get whatever map drops we do, of which I might add each player past myself is adding 10 quantity and 40 rarity. Rarity does not affect map drops, but it does affect the uniques we get. Quantity does affect the map drops, and if it was your map you putting into the device, if I put this map in, every map that drops, including sacrifice fragments, will go to me. Which means that it is my turn in the rotation, as it is known, a map rotation, also known as a map roto, you will see. We run my map, I get all the map drops, next person in line goes, they do their map, they get all the map drops, so on and so forth. You go through this through a full party. That makes 1 map basically last 6 maps. It's like the Hanukkah of mapping. It's supposed to last 1 map, but it lasted 6 crazy nights of mapping. It's a great way to spread your map pool thin. Not only does it give you more value, or 5 times, 6 times the value for 1 map, but it increases your chances by 50 quantity, if it's a full party, of getting map returns yourself. It is, dare I say, almost a requirement when you're at the levels I'm at, 94, 93 plus, when you're doing T12, T11 maps, to be in map rotations. It is extremely difficult and extremely expensive to sustain a high-level map pool playing solo without doing map rotations. You don't have to always be the same group. It may take you a half hour to find a rotation. Even 1 person, even 2 people, really helps. You're doubling, you're tripling your map pool, your map experience, your effective EXP, and your potential map gain further on. The one downside, maybe 2 downsides, is A, you may not be all in the same realm, which means you may lag more. More players equals more spell effects, which could completely destroy your FPS, your frame rate. That is a potential risk. They could be playing Discharge, which most people do not allow in map rotations, which essentially means no Mjolnir builds, no COC builds. That could be a real bummer. Also, more rarity means more unique drops, and they might not all go to you. Although the maps go to you, and map drops are great, you might not feel the same way when, you know, a Shavs drop and it didn't go to you in your own map. That could kind of kill your soul a little bit, but you have to look past that and think of the long con, and that the amount of currency you saved doing map rotations can afford you many Shavs down the road. So in summation, there is a good way and a bad way to roll maps. This is my way. Interpret it as you will. It has served me pretty well throughout this league as of yet. Talisman Hardcore. I have had little trouble sustaining a map pool playing solo 80% of the time. The times that I do map rotations, It is always beneficial. I suggest it highly for T11 plus maps to do map rotations with friends, foes, or strangers. Any questions, comments, or concerns, message me here on the forums or in-game. I am Matt Lighty. You have been informed, and I will see you later.